He did it in Corvallis. When is Jonathan Smith going to bring Sparty back? Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you stopping by. Discussion, debate, and analysis right here. Please check out our Monday through Friday show, The College Football Show, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And, of course, like and subscribe. Let's look at Michigan State's schedule in 2025. It started off rough for one Jonathan Smith with his young quarterback, Aiden Childs. First two games in the Big Ten in 2024. Go to Oregon. Take on Ohio State, the two best teams in the league, maybe the two best in the country. Go get them, Jonathan. Did not work out well. Michigan State, one game shy of a bowl game in Smith's first season at 5-7. This is how it looks in 2025 with a familiar foe out of the MAC, one of the directional Michigan schools in Western Michigan. Sparty 15-2 all-time against Western Michigan. They lost those games in 1917 and 1919. The last time the two got together, 2022, Michigan State won 35-13. Western Michigan, 6-7 last year, lost a bowl game to South Alabama, 10 consecutive losses. Western Michigan to the Big Ten, going back to a victory. PJ Fleck's 13-0 team defeated Northwestern, a 7-6 Northwestern team, 22-21 in 2016. Western Michigan, Michigan State in East Lansing on August 30th. Then it's the Power Conference matchup against Boston College. The Eagles defeated Michigan State on a late Aiden Childs interception, with Michigan State trying to pull things out of the fire late. They lost 23-19 in Chestnut Hill. They get together at Michigan State this year. BC leads the series 5-1. The two also got together following the 2007 season. It's Matt Ryan led a top 10 BC team to a win over Michigan State. BC is 4-9 against Big Ten opponents since 2010. Then Michigan State concludes the non-conference portion of the schedule on September 13th against Youngstown State. Michigan State 3-0 against the Penguins all-time, including 42-14 in 2021. Then it's on to the Big Ten and USC at the Coliseum. This series is tied at 4. They had two big bowl dates in 1990 in the Sun Bowl and, of course, the Rose Bowl game of 1988 that concluded a rare 2 games in one season as Michigan State and USC met in East Lansing. Sparty got the sweep in defeating Larry Smith's club, both in East Lansing and at the Rose Bowl, and Rodney Peete at quarterback. George Perlis, of course, led that Michigan State team and that big Rose Bowl win. After a bye week, Michigan State goes to Nebraska. They trail this series 9-4, but they've won the last 2. Matt Rule's team coming off its first bowl game and bowl win since 2016. UCLA the next week at home for Michigan State. This series at 3-3, but it's been a very meaningful series. UCLA swept Michigan State in 1973 and 74. That's the last 2 times they got together. But this goes back to those epic clashes in 1965. Again, another rare double up for one season as Michigan State defeated UCLA in the opener, but then lost the Rose Bowl 14-12 in 1966. They take on a UCLA team coming off its first Big Ten season at 5-7, 3-6 in the conference under Deshaun Foster. Michigan State in Indiana, where they got drubbed by the Hoosiers last year after taking a 10-0 lead, 47-10. Michigan State leads the lopsided series 50-19. They will face new quarterback Fernando Mendoza coming in from Cal, and of course Curt Cignetti and his Magic after an 11-2 campaign and a college football playoff run. Then it's the arch rival Michigan Wolverines, who have dominated the series 74-38 with 5 ties. Michigan State has lost 3 straight, had their best run, of course, under Mark D'Antonio with a winning record against the Maize and Blue, the 3-time Big Ten champions in 21, 22, and 23, who finished 8-5 last season. This was a competitive game at the Big House 24-17 last year. Then it's a trip to Minnesota. Spartans lead the series 30-19. They lost, however, in 2022 and 23 to PJ Fleck's team that finished 8-5 last year. They will have a new quarterback in either Drake Lindsey or Zach Pyron, the incoming transfer from Georgia Tech. Bye week before the stretch run that takes Michigan State against Penn State, Iowa, and Maryland. Of course, Michigan State and Penn State had hooked up typically on the final weekend of the season for a long, long time. This series closer than many would expect. Michigan State only trails 18-19. 42-0 was the final, though, the last time they met, and Penn State looks to be loaded on both sides of the ball, especially on offense with Drew Aller back, their two backs, and the offensive line intact for Penn State. Michigan State upset Iowa at home last year, 32-20. They go on the road to take on the Hawkeyes the second to last weekend of the season and trail in this series 25-23. Mark Gronowski, the new quarterback at Iowa, coming in from the FCS ranks, and Tim Lester running the offense for a second season at Iowa. They look to be much improved on that side of the ball, potentially. And again, Michigan State pulled off the upset last year, and then they finish up with Maryland, and they lead this series 11-4, and they have largely owned it during Maryland's entry into the Big Ten 8-3, including a 27-24 win in 2024. Maryland coming off a woeful 1-8 finish in the Big Ten after 3 consecutive bowl wins under Mike Locksley. 4 opponents remain the same on Michigan State's schedule 2024 to 2025. Their permanent rivalry with Michigan, also Indiana, Iowa, and Maryland. Let's look at the difference in the schedule from last season to this season to see if Michigan State can take advantage of not facing Ohio State and Oregon. So that's a big plus. Make that a big double plus for Jonathan Smith's team. In 2024, again, the Ducks and the Buckeyes off the schedule. That's huge. Illinois, a good team, of course, this past season at 10-3. Rutgers, decent at 7-6. And Purdue, by far the worst team in the Big Ten. Probably the worst team in college football at the power conference level. So those teams that have been removed from Michigan State's schedule went 26-19 last year. Take out Purdue, 26-10, and of course, arguably the 2 best teams in the league in Ohio State and Oregon, maybe the 2 best teams in the country. Replace them with Penn State, Minnesota, USC, Nebraska, UCLA. So what I see here is that Michigan State, they're losing the 2 heavyweights, and Illinois was strong last year, but they're also losing the opportunities to pick up some easier wins because these are all decent teams that they're taking on. And of course, Penn State could prove to be the best team in the Big Ten, but Minnesota, USC, Nebraska, UCLA near the middle of the pack. So those are all going to be challenges for Michigan State. They're opportunities for wins, but they're also opportunities to lose games. There are no slam dunk wins for Michigan State, no Purdue, no Northwestern. So while they rid themselves of the Buckeyes and the Ducks, again, no gimme wins for Michigan State, as their Big Ten composite record of opponents is 43-38 from last year, so slightly over 500. Will Michigan State get back to bowl play for the first time since 2021? Well, they will certainly have to defeat the teams on their level. Again, no Purdue, no Northwestern. They missed the big boys in Ohio State and Oregon. Your thoughts about Michigan State year 2 under the respected Jonathan Smith? He's an excellent coach. Aiden Childs has a year under his belt. Maybe Michigan State can make a move. Comments and questions below. Please like the video and subscribe. The College Football Show every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll see you then.